we are going to be talking about how trauma is the blueprint for human beings. And I don't believe it's a negative thing, even though it has like painful consequences. I don't believe it's a negative thing. I believe it's actually a blueprint that helps humans to find their identity and, most importantly, to find their path and purpose in life.
Welcome to an all-new episode of Looks and Wisdom Sundays with me, Anatii B.
Hey guys, and welcome to another exciting episode of Looks and Wisdom Sundays with me, Anatii B.
Please say the B.
AKA the elusive pundit. Honey, how are you guys feeling? How's T feeling at the back?
We're good. How are
I'm
you?
good myself, honey. We've got the heater on because it's still winter. So don't mind the arms being up. We have like heater going on in the background. But we are getting into very important things in the month of July. We are going to be talking about how trauma is the blueprint for human beings. And I don't believe it's a negative thing, even though it has like painful consequences. I don't believe it's a negative thing. I believe it's actually a blueprint that helps humans to find their identity and, most importantly, to find their path and purpose in life. So I've broken down this essay into three main topics. The first one is what is trauma, why it happens, and then we are going to get into the origins of trauma for the human being, not for you specifically, but for the human being, because every human being that breathes has some form of trauma that helps them to align to who they're supposed to be in this lifetime. And then after that, we are going to be looking at examples of how trauma can be used in a positive way. And then we're also going to be looking at celebrity examples. And then later on, we're going to be looking at some musicians that have actually used trauma to create some of the greatest art that we have experienced in this lifetime. T, are you excited for this episode?
Hello, yes.
Okay, let's get into it because this is an essay, honey. I've got notes. So, what is trauma? Okay, production is telling me to move my notes further away. So what is trauma? According to Columbia News, trauma occurs because of the way the human brain is wired. We are programmed to remember things that will be useful for our survival and help us remain safe in the future. Our brain wants to keep us safe and make sure it doesn't happen again. And this is where you get the flight, fight, or freeze response. This comes from the programming that your brain already has. T, anything you want to add to that?
No?
Okay. And then you might want to ask, because obviously this has been like a question for me for forever. How is it that we remember the bad things more than the good things? T, think about it. When you think about your ex, what's the first thing that comes
The trauma
into
that I
your mind?
experienced there.
Exactly.
And I mean, I think a lot of people before entering a relationship, they always want to quote unquote heal their trauma.
Yeah.
It always informs how they are going to be in the next relationship or who they going to choose to be with.
Exactly. So even for myself, every time I remember my past relationships, the first thing that's going to pop up is cheater, liar, all of these negative things. So according to, I don't know who's this, guys. I do have my references, but I don't know. It says that we usually remember things from a negative perspective, and this is because it creates an evolutionary defense mechanism. I read an article somewhere that says that human beings are automatically scared of snakes because of this evolutionary defense. Apparently back in the day, we used to like be in the bushes with the animals, and then the snakes are like venomous. Even though now we stay in the suburbs and we've got gated communities and things like that, the brain still remembers the snake as like this thing that can kill you. That's why even if you've never seen a snake before in your life, you're going to be scared of a snake.
Oh.
Are you scared of a snake?
Hello, yes.
Okay, me
And
too.
cats. And cats.
And exactly.
And so many other wild animals, actually, which I haven't even met or seen
That's
before.
true. And according to this article, this is from the evolutionary defense mechanism. So everything that was negative, everything that was painful gets ingrained in the brain so that we know not to do it. I don't know, we both don't have children, but I raise my nieces and my nephews. You would tell a child all the time, don't touch the fire, don't do this, don't do that. And when's the only time that they learn? Is when they do touch the stove and they burn themselves. And then their brain is going to be like, don't do that again. And which is the same thing as trauma and why we remember the traumatic instances that happen in our lives. I will look briefly at the beginnings of the human being, and I will look at religious aspects of the human being and how trauma was there.
The story of Adam and Eve speaks about the initial shift of human beings, Adam and Eve, from the state of oneness, the state of unity, the singularity, which is the same state in which angels exist. After they eat the forbidden fruit and get cast out of the Garden of Eden, they become aware of themselves and they become aware of the separation and aware of the duality of good and evil. And therefore, they can practice and live a life in which they can know whether they are practicing good or practicing evil, which is where trauma starts.
And guess what happens to their first offspring? Cain and Abel.
The story of Cain and Abel, who are the children of Adam and Eve, represents life outside of the Garden of Eden, which is life that exists in duality between good and evil, between righteousness and wickedness. Cain, who kills his brother Abel out of jealousy, represents the evil and violence. And Abel, with his righteous sacrifice, symbolizes goodness. So life outside of the Garden of Eden is a fight between good and evil, and human beings are inherently born with good and evil. In even simpler terms, basically we are born to fight within the duality of good and evil that already exists within us, as we are now outside of the Garden of Eden. And the challenges that we face through the trauma of our lives indicate what we are here to learn for our soul evolution. However, we are born as nobodies, but the environment around us through experiences help direct our souls into what we are here to learn and evolve from, hence trauma.
So what does that mean then for the human being that exists now? Let's get into that nobody element. T, do you remember being born?
No.
Do you remember what's the earliest memory of your childhood that you remember?
I always like see vivid images of me at my primary school when I was like in grade R.
Exactly. The only memory I remember about myself is my mom cooking jungle oats. I don't remember how old I was, but I remember we were already in Cape Town. And calculating, I might have been like 7 or 8. Psychology says that for the first 7 years, you are absorbing knowledge, you are absorbing influence that is going to impact you for the rest of your life. So from this nobody person that's born out of your mama's vajayjay, for the first 7 years, you are not an active participant in real life. You are a sponge of what's happening around you. And because you are a sponge, How are you doing that, T? By absorbing emotions and the vibration in the environment that's in and around you.
And in psychology, they do mention that we are born as like clean slates, and then things get written down in our slate as we grow, and within that 7-year period,
Exactly.
there's like 5 stages of development in that
Yeah.
as well.
So that's what I'm getting to, because I get it, we are talking about trauma as the blueprint. And we have already established in the first segment that trauma is something that exists to help us survive in the world. It creates wires in your brain and programming that helps you survive. So now, nobody, you're born 7 years, you are just absorbing the environment that you're born in. Do you have influence over this environment that you're born in?
Not really.
Not at all, because number one, did you choose the parents that gave birth to you? Did you choose your mother and your father?
No.
Did you choose your race?
No.
Did you choose whether you were born in affluence or poverty?
Hell no.
Did you choose the country in which you were born?
Nope.
What did you choose about your existence?
Nothing. It was chosen for you.
Nothing at all. And I mean, we're not talking about the people who believe in soul contracts that before you come here, you are in Congress with God and be like, yeah, God, put me in the poverty, I will survive. Make sure. Like, we're not talking about soul contracts. We're talking about when you are in the existence 3D. You don't choose your parents. You don't choose anything really. You don't choose the environment. You don't choose your aunts, your great grandparents. You choose nothing. And in the first 7 years, you are absorbing all of these things that you didn't choose. And what did we learn earlier? That all of these things that are happening in and around you influence the trauma that you get to experience later on, and the trauma that's going to influence you for the rest of your life. My psychologist actually told me that I have like a lot of anxiety because of my childhood. When I was growing up, like, it was very dysfunctional and chaotic. And because of that, like, that's why I like have like a lot of anxiety. It's manageable now because I've grown and I've healed and stuff, but there are still like remnants there. So that's what we are talking about. So this environment that you grow up in influences a lot of your things. So for example, it influences your relationships. You mirror your parents and what they lacked or they had. For example, I watch a lot of RRG. It's like a relationship analysis channel here on YouTube. And they actually do deep dives into why people choose the partners that they choose. What's the biggest debate that we've had on social media right now around partners? I think it's Haley and DDG. Why would she choose that guy? Like, RRG actually has a breakdown of that. The psychology of Chloe having a detached relationship with her father, her longing for her father and her father not being there, and then her father showing up now and then. That influences how you're going to show up in relationships later on. What other things do we remember about relationships? The masculine energy. Like, a lot of, especially females who grew up in households where the masculine in the house was feminine. And by feminine, I mean they were not a provider. Or, for example, Nicki Minaj, her mom was the provider in the household. Her father was abusive. The queen is doing the exact same thing right now, being the provider and marrying someone who's like not the provider of the household. Same thing with guys who have mothers that were like babying them. What do we call them? Mama's boys. Like the petty guys. That's what they do later on. So that 7 years of your life, as much as you don't remember it, influences the relationships that you have. It doesn't matter whether you look at your parents' relationship from like a negative lens or you look at it from like a positive lens. It still influences how your relationship later on.
So if you look at your parents, you might look at their relationship, and in your mind, like, okay, that's what a relationship is. That's what a relationship should be. Check. and you just store it as something you believe in. And then you go about your life keeping that assumption alive, reinforcing it, investing in it, and building new assumptions, new beliefs on top of it. Here you are in your adult life, and let's just say your parents' relationship was very destructive. There was a lot of fighting, a lot of drama. You might find yourself attracted to someone where there's also a lot of drama in this current relationship. And consciously you're like, why do I keep falling for, a common one with women, the bad boys? Why do I keep liking the bad boys, the guys who cheat on me? Okay, links back to perhaps, again, not always, but very likely, the relationship your parents had together. The same with guys. I keep falling in love with girls who cheat on me, partners who leave me. Maybe as a kid, there was that distance in the relationship your parents had. Maybe your parents got divorced, got separated. Maybe that was your definition of love. So you fall for people who can't fully be there for you. People who cheat on you, people who are long distance, like long distant relationships, people who are unavailable, people who you know, part of you knows, will leave you. And it's like this recurring pattern in your life. Okay? And here, consciously, you can try to think, okay, well, I need relationship advice. What are the techniques to get the relationship? Until you let go of this core assumption, this core belief, it will keep repeating itself. And the resistance to letting go of it, by the way.
Another thing that I wanted to talk about is friendships. If you grew up as a person that wasn't valued in your household, this goes for every relationship, chances are you're going to look for friends who are abusive, who don't value you, because you want to play into those games. Because as much as you don't know it, like your brain, that programming that you have found earlier on in your life is at play. I actually discovered this about myself. I was like, why are my friends these type of people? Like, they're never there for me, ever. And I'm always there for them, like, all the time. And I was like, oh, but this is what I've always done with my parents. And I was like, because I was a shy person, like, I was a shy child. And then the only time I would get, like, attention from my parents is when I did well or learned something. And then that was like the spirit that I grew into. So I would want to do for my friends. I would want to be supportive and being there. I didn't even check to see that they were like pouring into me. Do you think Drake suffered from the same thing? Because he looks like the guy who's always giving, and never checking if people are reciprocating the same energy. Hence, we got What Did I Miss?
Y'all was not paying attention to Drake when he said, what did I miss? When I was looking at y'all and cooking with y'all and handing out verses and bookings with y'all to make sure that money hit, what did I miss? When you was up in my crib looking at hoes, word for word, at all of my shows, did you always feel like this, man? What did I miss? And I felt that.
I do think that. Or he grew up maybe like in a household where he didn't have to really have his guard up in terms of loyalty, in terms of checking those types
Exactly.
of things.
And then it also influences your life trajectory, the opportunities that you get. T, had you been raised by like rich parents, how different do you think your life would have been?
Absolutely so different. I don't know whether I'd be the same person, but obviously my life will be different. And I don't know how I would like navigate things like relationships, and because obviously most of the things that how I act now is very much informed by my trauma.
Exactly.
So I do think it was going to be absolutely different, for the better or worse.
Exactly. We don't know, but life would have been different. And I always say to people, I will play this clip actually. If I find it, I'll play it. It's about this old white woman who was raised by these parents. And she does speak about the fact that her life would have been different.
If you're looking back on your life, what is a big regret that you have that taught you a valuable lesson?
Where would I be? What could I have done if I had a supportive rather than violent and destructive upbringing? I got a 4-year scholarship, and my parents intercepted that letter and burnt it. I found out when I was 52 years old. I was their property. My father told me that, and I thought I will never be that person.
And my difference would have been, I was always like an active child. I knew who I wanted to be. I knew where I wanted to go. The only disadvantage in my life is that I was raised in poverty and my parents didn't have resources. If I was raised by like maybe parents that had funding, it would have been a different ball game entirely. Bonang's parents could do for her, so she had opportunities to go and learn how to present, which a lot of people don't. And you can see she's got training because she went to go get the education. She had money to go to auditions, and someone else might not have the same thing. And trauma also informs our creative fields, what we get to do, down to sports. Like I always think about the fact that Lewis Hamilton had to have been born specifically to those parents to be able to become Lewis Hamilton.
Of course.
Because if he didn't, it wasn't going to happen. Look at the fact that we don't have a successor for Lewis Hamilton. None whatsoever. You like, guys, even in F2, F3, F4, F5, there is no other black person there. No one. If Lewis Hamilton drops dead today, touch wood, it doesn't happen. Or when he retires, which is inevitable, there isn't going to be any other Lewis Hamilton. So trauma and our parents actually play a role in who we are and who we become. And I always look at Lewis and his dad's relationship. Lewis had to become Lewis, as much as some of it was his own doing because he wanted to be Lewis Hamilton. A lot of it also came from the pressure, knowing your parents having to use all their hard-earned money to support your dreams. You have to push harder. Same thing if you watch the Serena Williams and Venus Williams movie. As much as they were talented people, them seeing their father having to go through those hoops to give them the opportunity gave them pressure to be Venus and Serena. And who's the other chick that's now number one, the black one?
It's Simone. Is it something Simone?
No, that's not Simone. Is it Candice? I don't know. I'll link her name, but she's doing great. And again, you can see the relationship between her and her father. Her dad was taking her to tennis matches. There's a picture of her and a video actually of her watching Venus play. You get what I'm saying? How you grow up, where you grow up, who's around you informs who you're going to be. And then all of those traumas that you actually do experience get to inform your identity. And if you are smart enough, they can also inform your purpose and where you are going as a person. Even in healing, trauma plays a vital role. Even in healing, it's the shadow aspects of ourselves. And shadow aspects usually come from instances that we didn't like growing up, but we couldn't verbalize and we decided to suppress inside of us. And sorry guys, I have to plug my book because it talks exactly about this. I didn't like certain aspects about my mom. For example, I didn't like the fact that she stayed with my father because my dad was not the best father available, but I've grown to understand trauma is the blueprint that informs who we are as human beings. So I didn't like the way that my mom and my dad's relationship was, and therefore I didn't like my mother and her dealing with the situation and the issue. And I was like, I'll never be like my mom. I would never date these bum ass losers. Guess what I did when I grew up?
Bum ass losers.
And I had to go to therapy for this. I was like, what is this? And my therapist was like, well, it's the shadows. Even in healing and as we evolve, the trauma plays a vital role because what are you healing from or evolving from? The shadow aspects of the trauma. And I actually, even again, sorry guys for the shameless plug, I speak in my book, I speak about the fact that in my head, I saw my mom as this great human being. People ask me, where does my work ethic come from? It comes from my mom. My mom was a worker bee and my grandmother was a worker bee. So I was a worker bee by default. And I like that because it afforded me opportunities because I was like, hello, I'm going to kill these exams. I'm going to do this. I'm going to excel as a dancer, as an actress, as the school's editor-in-chief, I was Anna Wintour, darling, before. Like, you get what I'm saying? And that was inspired again by my mom and her drive to get us out of poverty. She did her best. Even in that, I was like, I have to heal from the good aspects as well, because I used to like drive myself crazy working overtime at night, never getting sleep. So even in healing, whether we're healing the good or the bad that happens from us, trauma plays a vital role. So I, as a person who firmly sits on the other side of healing, my healed version is also informed by the things I have to heal from in the trauma that I experience. So we cannot avoid trauma, which is why I'm saying trauma is the blueprint of who we are, whether in shadows or whether in healing, because it doesn't go away. Who you are is already who you are. And that person is informed by your growing up those first 7 years. What else did I want to say about this? Is there anything you want to add, T?
No.
Yeah. So you can't choose the trauma that you have, but you can choose how to use your trauma constructively to lead you to your purpose and your soul evolution, which is what's going to lead us to these celebrity examples. So the first one we're going to talk about is Michelle Obama. So Michelle, her trauma, well, if we have to look at it from that perspective, is the fact that she had a mother, and growing up, she sensed and she could see that the mother valued the brother more than the mother valued her. And what did that create? A person who wanted to have her mom's approval. And what do we get? Michelle Obama, the achiever, she went to Harvard. She was cum laude this, cum laude that. Like, her resume is a great example of someone who never felt like they were quite enough and had to overcompensate in order to get the mother's love. She always, I'll find this clip. She always jokes about the fact that her brother was the mom's favorite and she was never.
Did he also have to talk your mother into moving into the White House with y'all?
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I called him first. I was like, Craig, come on, Mom has got to go. What did you say? Because first of all, he is the favorite, right? So now, I am the first lady, but my mother's like, when's Craig coming? And I'm like, I live in the White House. What more do I have to do? So I was like, you can talk her into doing anything. But she didn't want to.
I am the favorite. I am the favorite.
But how did you talk her into it?
So she always tries to, and her trying was very beneficial to her because we got First Lady Michelle Obama. Her resume is good, and she used her trauma that she had in a good way. She created an identity for herself as a super independent woman who didn't need a man, even though she had Barack Obama. But she could stand on her own, and that stemmed for that relationship she had with her mother of feeling like she had to overdo.
I think the reason we see Michelle Obama rejecting respectability politics and like black woman muledom in such an obvious way is because her mother has now passed. So on my video earlier where I stitched this creator talking about how our grandmothers and mothers just constantly overwork themselves to numb their emotions, I said it's up to the younger generation to reject that mindset and not think working yourself to death is some kind of virtue, especially for black women. And Ali O said, true. This reminds me of Michelle refusing to attend the inauguration. She said she was tired of laboring and she opted out. And it struck me in that moment, this is the first time we've seen that behavior from Michelle. It started with her refusing to attend Jimmy Carter's funeral, and then the inauguration, and then just public life in general. She hasn't done anything she has not wanted to do since late December 2024. And a lot of black people, including my mother, said, oh, she is still so grieved by the passing of her mother because, we love our mamas. And I don't doubt that that's a part of it. It's true. I'm sure she's heavily grieved. I saw her on a podcast with her brother talking about how heavily grieved she is. But I also do not think that during her mother's lifetime, she would have felt empowered to make such a move. You can be the most rebellious, the most militant, the most anti-white supremacy person around, but baby, let your mother snap her fingers, you're going to jump into line, especially if you've been raised a certain way. I have every confidence that after Michelle was out of the White House, she didn't want to participate in a lot of public life things that she inevitably did. Because if you've been raised in that very old school Black way, you would never do anything to disappoint or go against what you know to be your parents' wishes. And I'm sure her mother planted those values in her.
And at 60, I had to convince myself that I had done enough. After all that I had done in the world, I still felt a guilt, right? Struggling with like deep guilt that maybe I needed to do a little bit more. So I'm at this stage in life where I have to define my life on my terms for the first time. So what are those terms? And going through therapy, is getting me to look at the fact that maybe finally I'm good enough, right? And unlearning some of those messages that I've been saying to myself, and then trying to actively practice something different to rewire those neurons in my head that make me keep pushing and keep striving.
And then Beyonce, in terms of relationships, she gave us the tea on lemonade. And now Mama Tina dropped a book called The Matriarch. And you could see Beyonce learned how to be in a relationship from her mother, down to the type of men that she chose. Jay-Z and Matthew are same WhatsApp group, masculine and go-getters, don't care who they trample on the way. They are going to get to the top either way. And then Matthew was busy in the streets, and so was Jay. And she stayed because she saw her mom staying in her relationship until the cookie crumbled, and then she gave us lemonade. As much as it was a bad thing, it was an evolution thing where her soul needed to evolve. And she decided to use the trauma of the relationship connected to the generational curse of her mother, of her grandmother, and heal it and neutralize it. And we got lemonade, and then we got the healed version of Beyonce.
It could be that Beyonce and Solange picked up a lot of what they saw their mama go through with their daddy. And how, relationships look, how they move, and how to deal with them. But you know what? They also picked up her strength. They also picked up a lot of Tina's strength. Because kids are sponges. You can tell them one thing, but they learn more by what they see, what they witness. Watching your mother, go through all that betrayal over and over again with their daddy can plant, these seeds of self-sacrifice and this kind of distorted love. But I also think that they watched her evolve. They watched her get stronger and better. They saw her eventually walk away and choose herself. And that's also powerful. We can't discount that. So
I am always able to get back to myself because of you and because of the profound woman that you are. It's because of you. It's because of you. It's because of you.
Is there anyone else that you can think about?
I think Wendy Williams as well. She grew up in a home where she'd get body shamed by her own parents.
Body shamed, yes.
And obviously that led to a lot of insecurities, but eventually she did get to a point where she was happy with her body. She was embracing it because along the way, the queen even got some breast implants.
Capital P.
And I think that was, it had like a lot to do with her growing up as well, even though she shared that in the industry that she was in, a lot of women had the big boobs. But I do think it's way beyond that, because how are you affected by the fact that other people look a certain way in your industry?
Exactly. So I like that example about Wendy. Even body dysmorphia starts from the family. Khloe Kardashian is a prime example of what we're talking about now. A local example I wanted to give is, as much as she doesn't talk about it deeply, Bonang did once speak about the fact that her mom wanted her to be a corporate girly because her mom is educated, was in HR, and she didn't see her entertainment career going very far. And my thinking is that that influenced the Bonang that we have, down to the fact that she's still at the top right now. Because if you have your mom, the anchor of the family, not believing in what you are wanting to do, best believe you're going to go 10 times harder in what you're doing. So I believe Bonang's mom influenced Bonang into being Bonang, because she had to do the job, get it done, because her mom was like, girl, this entertainment thing is not going to work for you.
You watch people, and I watched my mom become who she is, and that's all I know, hard work. So it's molded me. It's made me who I am. There are a lot of doctors and scientists and leaders of fields and industries in my family, and that's what I know. So I know the impact that it has when you have those direct influences in your life. And also my mom has helped me because she's an academic. She is a corporate woman. I'm entertainment industry. I'm the other side. Yeah. I'm very streetwise, so I'm the opposite of my mom. So it's a good balance. So
how did she find that? Like, what was her reaction to that? Because I imagine, as an academic herself, she was like, hopefully Bonang will grow up to be.
Oh, she absolutely hates it. She hates that I had to leave the University of Johannesburg. She hates that I didn't complete my junior degree. She hates it. So a lot of why I push so hard is just to prove myself right and to make sure that she is not disappointed, because a lot of the time she wanted me to be in corporate South Africa. She wanted me to be successful. She wanted me to get my junior master's degree, postgraduate. She wanted me to be all of that. But then my life took a completely different turn, because I'm a creative, and I use my voice and my face and my talent and the things that I've been given to make money. And it took a lot of convincing. First 3 jobs up until I think when I got top billing, she's like, all right, okay.
She's like, okay, something's happening here.
It seems like it looks like you know what you're doing.
She's like, now she's visiting mansions.
Yeah, but the thing about my mom and having a corporate mom and educated mother is that she helped me with business, with whether it's matters of litigation, whatever it's been. She has really helped me save money. She's helped me create a business around what I do. So.
Another person that I wanted to talk about was, what's his name? The imprints designer, Mzuki Simbane. He's a designer who makes these wonderful gowns. He also speaks about the fact that his trauma influenced him into being a designer and the designs that he makes.
This designer turned childhood trauma into a fashion house. Mzuki Simbani created Imprint SA to reimagine identity, starting with his own. As a queer black man growing up in Khayelitsha, his style was his armor. Now he designs like he's building kingdoms. Each look is unapologetically African and sharply tailored, infused with symbolisms of Zulu beadwork, Xhosa storytelling, and Pan-African power. His collections don't whisper, they proclaim. Imprint SA isn't just the brand, it's resistance wrapped in luxury. Mzuki Simbani is designing a future where queerness, Africanity, and confidence don't just coexist, they dominate.
And now to my favorite topic, music. Trauma is very good for music, right?
Absolutely.
We already spoke about Beyonce and Lemonade and how she channeled her trauma into creating a great body of work. Great body of work. Yeah, guys, English is not our mother. Okay. Frank Ocean, Channel Orange, was influenced by his very bad relationship that happened to him. Jay-Z's 444 album, influenced by the trauma of cheating on Beyonce and almost losing his wife. Who else can you think of?
Would you, I think Queen by Nicki, The Hate Train.
Hello, yes. You can see the Queen is pressed. She's trying to prove a point. Pressed, because what album do we have before Queen?
The Pink Print.
And that was like a chilled album. Yeah. Great. And then she had to prove a point. So she channeled that anger into creating a good album. And then Casper Nyovest with Solofelo, the guy was trying to fight poverty. That was his, I'm getting out of here. I can't be poor. Who did you say just now when we were working the script? Ngabayam.
Oh, Zahara.
Yes, Zahara and Ngabayam. Michael Jackson's Thriller, the greatest album of all time, was influenced by Michael Jackson's trauma of being rejected by the Grammys from the Off the Wall album, where he got 0 awards and people were like, oh, you're going to go away, Mr. Jackson. And he was like, no, I'm not going to go away. I'm about to create the greatest album of all time.
That's true.
And
another local example is Kelly Khumalo with The Voice of Africa. If you remember, it was during when the whole Senzo Meyiwa case was like fueling, like years after the whole incident happened.
Yeah.
And the Queen was still being dragged on social media and everywhere else. And she released the album, did very well. And it has one of the songs, Mbini, which was
I love Mbini. Yes.
Yes.
Guys, what we are trying to say is that you can't step away from trauma and traumatic instances happening in your life. What you can do is channel the trauma into creating something that is good, into changing your life for the better, or whatever you believe that is. While we're still in music, Anatii's Iyeza. And it was a reflection and him reclaiming himself as a Xhosa at the time, because he was lost for a very long time around his identity. And then he reconnected with his ancestors and was like, I am here. And I think more recently for the children in the streets is Ghana with his album, the one that had Papupi, da 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 da, yeah. Do you remember?
Yes.
When he was said to be but we can't swear. When everybody was like, Ghana's going down, he's a rat, he's never going to get to the top. During him and his young thug situation. He didn't go and be on a Twitter rant. He was like, I'm going to channel all of this anger, all of this rejection into creating a good album. These people know how to channel trauma into a creative project. And the last one I wanted to talk about is the entire Kwaito scene in South Africa. It was a rebellion against apartheid, embracing the new freedom. Lebu, TKZ, Brenda Fassie, Tandiswa, all of these people, they were like, we are here. We don't care, white people, we are. So guys, I'm not even going to make this thing long. All I'm going to say is trauma is the blueprint of human existence. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't fight it away. You can use it as a tool to create your own identity, to know who you are, to create purpose for yourself, to use the fuel to create something greater for yourself, whether it's a career, whether it's a creative project, or whatever you're doing. My channel, my book is all centered around my own evolution as a human being. By the way, the book is available on Take It Out on Amazon.
Okay, good. The shameless.
With that said, don't look at your trauma as a hindrance, but look at it as a fuel that can channel you to greater heights. Where we going to again? To the #1 podcaster in Africa,
Hello,
right?
take over, McJ.
Hello, honey. And we know this information because we are using our trauma to fuel this thing. It's a great fuel, honey. With that said, I've got no information to give to the masses. Do you, T?
No.
Thank you guys for tuning in. I will see you next week, where I will be conversing with Nine around how he channeled his trauma into creating great music. I love you. Please comment, subscribe, tell your friends, like, blah, 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 blah. Thank you.
Like some hearts on Patreon.
Hello.